Hey everyone, welcome to Wrestling Connection. I'm your host, Johnny D, the Redeemer, and today I'm giving you my first fantasy matchup video. And for my first matchup, I decided to do one that I know has been on my mind lately, and I know has been on others since WrestleMania, and of course, even before that. So today I'm going to do D-Generation X versus the nWo. I hope you enjoy.
Are you ready? You think you can tell us what to do?
Okay, so for DX versus nWo, the first thing we need to get done is who exactly would be in this feud. Now, it's real easy for D-Generation X. You know, of course, you would have Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and X-Pac. You know, the main five that have been in the group. But nWo is a little bit more tricky. Of course, you're going to have Hogan, Hall, and Nash. I mean, those are the big three of the nWo. But there were so many people in the nWo over the years, it's kind of hard to say, oh, you know, this person or that person. Me personally, I felt like the Macho Man would have to be in there. He was always very prevalent with the nWo and WCW. You could say the Giant, but I decided not to go with him. I think he'd be kind of overpowering for this kind of video, this kind of matchup kind of thing. And I tried to find somebody who would be kind of a matchup for X-Pac. And that was pretty hard. The nWo didn't have very many small people in it. And it came down to pretty much Conan or Buff Bagwell. And I decided to go with Buff Bagwell. So he'd be the fifth person in this group. So you got Hogan, Hall, Nash, Macho Man, and Buff Bagwell. That's your nWo. So now let's kind of break down the two groups. Obviously, the nWo has the more raw power. They're all pretty big guys. Even Buff Bagwell, who was agile, so he was still a muscular dude. The D-Generation X, they're much more versatile. You have Shawn Michaels, who's a technician. He's a high flyer. And then Triple H, who's a lot more of a powerhouse. And then Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. Billy Gunn's very unique to me. He's big and versatile, but like Shawn Michaels, he could also be very agile. And then X-Pac, who's the martial arts high flyer. And then, like I said, the nWo is just a lot of just straight powerhouses. And the nWo is a lot more big names. I mean, when you think about it, 4 out of the 5 are Hall of Famers already. And yeah, DX does have its big names too, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. But the New Age Outlaw, I mean, and no offense to these guys, I love Billy Gunn and Road Dogg and X-Pac, but they're not quite as, you hear those names, and you're like, oh my god. So the nWo definitely does have that name drawing power. And the way the two groups worked are very different. And, people compare the two all the time, but they were so different. The nWo was like an army. And when you think about it, they were just in-your-face, confrontational. They would have 16 people come down just to jump one guy. DX was different. They were very methodical in the way they did things. They would mess with you. They'd play mind games. And they make you think you're having a one-on-one, but then next thing you know, you got the 4 other guys down at ringside just messing with you, and you lose the match. So they're two very different operations going on. And of course, you also have to talk about which group really was bigger, and that's a very hard thing to argue about or even make a definitive decision on. Yes, nWo made a huge impact. With the Outsiders coming in and Hulk Hogan turning evil and the way they kind of did take over WCW at first, they had the big impact. But D-Generation X was long lasting. I think, to me, D-Generation X has the longer legacy. You know, it could have died with Shawn Michaels leaving with his back injury in '98, but it didn't. Triple H picked it up, he brought in the DX Army, and he kept that going until they all felt, well, mostly Triple H, but they felt that it was getting stale. So they dropped it, and now they brought it back years ago, and while it was different, it still worked. That's why I feel D-Generation X has had the greater legacy. nWo floundered for a long time. They tried to keep it going, and you know, it wasn't exciting because they always won, because those guys had creative control. And it wasn't exciting for people to see, oh, the nWo again. I wonder what's gonna happen. And there were so many iterations, so many people. It got convoluted. It got crowded. You know, it seemed like at one point everybody was in the nWo. And it didn't help them in the long run. So I mean, which group was bigger? You can't really say. They both had their moments. They both had their impacts on wrestling. There's this famous two scenes from the Monday Night Wars where Shawn Michaels says the Clique runs professional wrestling, and then over on Nitro you had Nash going right back at you, HBK, and it's true. And at one point the Clique kind of did. They were the big names on the two shows in professional wrestling, which is kind of mind blowing when you really think about it. So now that we've kind of looked at the two groups from a background standpoint, you gotta think, how would a fantasy match like this would play out? You know, you could have a series of matches. You know, you could have, like, let's say, you could have X-Pac versus Buff Bagwell, then have a tag title match, you know, the New Age Outlaws versus the Outsiders, and then have another match like the IC belt. And let me say this, we're looking at these guys from the standpoint of like 1999, let's say. You know, right as, you know, the DX Army was huge, and let's say we'll take 97 Shawn Michaels, in 99 the rest of DX, and then, you know, the nWo from 98. Well, yeah, 98, right as they were going into 97, as they were going into the thing with Sting. So that's how we're looking at the people in these two groups. So like I was saying, you have an IC belt match with Triple H and Macho Man, and then HBK versus Hogan for the, that's going to be the WWE title versus the World Heavyweight title. You know, you could do that. If it were to go that way, I would see Bagwell getting over X-Pac. You know, X-Pac he's a good guy in the ring. He's very versatile, but I just think in the long run, Bagwell would be able to overpower him. For the tag match, there's just no way the New Age Outlaws would be able to stand up to the Outsiders. They'd be able to get in some good, you know, opposition. There's just no way. Hall and Nash are just too big, too powerful. There's no way as much as I love the New Age Outlaws too, I love them as a tag team, there's no way they'd get over on the Outsiders. Triple H versus Savage. Now this could be a dream match all on its own, which I may actually end up doing later on. If this match had ever happened, it would have been amazing. Because in a way, they're kind of similar styles, but then they're also different. They're very, you know, they're both powerhouses. They both kind of like to dominate their opponent. But I think the only difference is Macho Man can kind of, he'd go up on the top rope more often. I can't really remember a time Triple H has ever really gone off the top rope. He's just never done it. But I think that would be an amazing match to see. But in this instance, I would see Triple H going over Macho Man. You know, at this time, Triple H was really the big up-and-comer. He was, you know, coming into his WWE title reigns, and Actually, I would really see Savage losing to Triple H. And then you would have HBK and Hogan, which we've had before. Now, when you think of HBK at this time, would he have, given up a match to Hogan? And that's very hard to say. And I don't know if he would, but he would at that time he would respect Vince. If this was being booked like that. And I would see Hogan going over, especially during the time of the nWo. There was nothing that could stop Hogan. He was running wild, so they'd say. So I definitely would see Hogan going over. I think to fit the, kind of the time and everything, there would be an interference from both sides. The nWo and a couple guys from DX coming out. And I would definitely see Hogan getting the win in the long run. So looking at it that way, the nWo would win. They'd have the more wins, and so they would be declared the winners of the the fantasy matchup. But there's another way you could look at it, and I think this would be the more definitive way to do it, the more concrete way. And that would be in a Survivor Series elimination style match. I think you could really have a better storytelling going on, and you have all the guys in the ring at one time. So I'm going to kind of go through that as how I would like to see it if it were played out as a match. You would have X-Pac and Bagwell start off. They would go at it, and like I said in the other thing, Bagwell would eliminate X-Pac. So that would bring in, let's say, Road Dogg. Road Dogg and Billy Gunn would tag in and out. You're kind of taking down Bagwell, eventually leading to, let's say, a Famouser, and Bagwell's out. So this brings in the Macho Man, and the Macho Man just dominates the New Age Outlaws. Takes out Road Dogg relatively easy. And of course there'd be tags here and there, in and out. And then we get a flying elbow drop on Billy Gunn, sends him out. So now we have Triple H come in, and we still get that Triple H Macho Man face off. They battle it back and forth for a while. No tags here, and eventually Triple H pulls off the pedigree and gets the pin on Savage, sends Savage out. Hall comes into the ring. Triple H and Hall have kind of a little stare down, click and click. And this kind of, as they start to fight, kind of a little battle erupts. Nash and Hogan come in, Shawn Michaels comes in, and they all just kind of battle it out. And then they get separated, and you have the stare down from both sides. The 3 nWo and the 2 DX. They're staring at each other, and this is where the big moment happens. Triple H turns and pedigrees Shawn Michaels, and people would just be like, "What the hell?" But you got to remember, at this time, and always, and this has been always with Triple H, he's always looked out for himself first. He turned on DX members, when they were the DX Army. He turned on DX members when he felt, it wasn't working to his benefit. He used DX to lure out Shawn Michaels to turn on him. It's just, Triple H knows when something would or would not benefit him. He even did it with Evolution, with Randy Orton. And, he tried to keep it from happening with Batista, but it didn't happen. So Triple H, he's a thinker. He knows when he's on a losing battle and what he has to do to not lose. So he would turn on HBK, pedigree him, and Hall goes to cover HBK. He kicks out, ends up eliminating Hall. But then, Nash comes in. Just Triple H is so beat down. Nash just kind of beats on him, hits the jackknife. That's the last ride. The jackknife. Tags in Hogan. Hogan gets in, just hits the leg drop, and gets the win. So nWo wins, thanks to Triple H. But as they're celebrating in the ring and everything, somebody comes running back down. Triple H with a sledgehammer. Remember, Triple H doesn't like to lose. So he comes in, knocks down Bagwell, he hits Nash, Nash rolls out, goes to hit the other guys. They're all dodged out by that point. And who's left standing in the ring but none other than the Game, Triple H. That would just, it's a symbolic moment that even in the long run, nWo won, but Triple H is the last man standing. I think back in that day, that would have been mind-blowing to see. So, I mean, yeah, that's how I would play out that fantasy match. Yes, and the nWo won. And I think no matter what, nWo would come out over D-Generation X, even though I love D-Generation X 10 times more. I always love watching DX. They were just awesome. No matter what iteration it is, DX is the best. If you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. But yeah, I think if they had ever met face to face, the nWo would come out on top. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this first video of my fantasy matchups. Tell me what you thought down in the comment below. Let me know some fantasy matchup you guys would like to see. I have some in mind, but you guys could always give me some real interesting ideas. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, family, anyone. And I will see you guys tomorrow for my SmackDown review. Thanks for watching. Bye.